My wife handed me a small envelope at my 40th birthday dinner. I opened it in front of our friends. Inside was a $5 Starbucks gift card. She smiled and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I didn't want to overspend on someone who never took risks. It fits your level." One guest laughed nervously. The others stared at their plates. What she didn't know: 3 months earlier, I'd signed the papers that made me the majority stakeholder in her company. I was, technically, her employer. Let me explain how we got here. My name is David Chen, and I'm a compliance risk analyst. That's a fancy way of saying I help companies avoid disaster. I review supply chains, identify regulatory vulnerabilities, audit third-party vendors, assess financial exposure. It's not glamorous. Nobody writes LinkedIn posts celebrating compliance. There are no awards for preventing problems that never happen. But companies need people like me. Quiet, methodical people who catch issues before they become crises. I've spent 20 years building a reputation for being thorough, discreet, and effective. I also did something most analysts don't. Instead of taking bonuses, I often took equity. Small percentages in companies I helped stabilize. 5% here, 3% there. Through holding companies and silent partnerships, so clients didn't have to advertise their vulnerabilities. Over 2 decades, those small percentages compounded. My wife, Lauren, never quite understood what I did. She knew it paid well enough, but it wasn't exciting. No fancy title, no corner office, no team to manage. When we met 15 years ago, she found my stability attractive. Refreshing, she called it. That changed over time. 5 years ago, Lauren landed a role at Preston & Wade, a boutique consulting firm with a prestigious reputation. Director of Client Relations. Good salary, better title, impressive business cards. She was proud. I was proud for her. But something shifted. The late nights started. The new wardrobe. The phone always face down on the table. More concerning, she started rewriting our history. At dinner parties, she'd introduce me as stable but comfortable. She'd mention my job with a slight apologetic tone, like she was making excuses. One word kept appearing: mediocre. David's career is fine, mediocre but steady. He never took big risks, very mediocre approach to life. She'd say it casually, like it was an objective assessment rather than an insult. I didn't argue, partly because I didn't care what strangers thought, partly because I was starting to realize our marriage was dying. My 40th birthday fell on a Saturday. Lauren organized a small dinner at our home. 6 friends, nothing elaborate. I didn't expect much. We'd been distant for months, but I expected basic respect. During dessert, she handed me the envelope. I opened it. The $5 gift card fell out. "Starbucks," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Thanks." "Well," Lauren said with that smile I'd grown to hate, "I didn't want to overspend on someone who never took risks. It fits your level, don't you think?" Our friend Mark laughed nervously. The others stared at their plates. What she didn't know: 3 months earlier, I'd signed the papers that made me the majority stakeholder in her company. I was, technically, her employer. I put the gift card in my pocket and excused myself to the kitchen. Standing there alone, washing a glass I didn't need to wash, something crystallized. This wasn't about the gift card. It was about years of accumulated contempt, and I was done absorbing it. Let me tell you what Lauren didn't know about Preston & Wade. The firm she was so proud to work for had been struggling for 18 months. Client retention issues, cash flow problems. 2 partners had quietly left. They were bleeding money and trying to maintain appearances. 6 months ago, the founding partners started looking for investors. They needed capital injection, but wanted to avoid public disclosure that would damage their prestigious image. They approached several private equity groups. All passed. Then they approached me. I'd worked with Preston and Wade 4 years earlier on a supply chain audit. They knew my work. They knew I was discreet. They offered me a deal, significant equity stake in exchange for capital and ongoing risk oversight. I reviewed their financials. The firm was salvageable with proper management and capital discipline. I structured the deal through one of my holding companies. I put in $3.2 million over 3 months, acquiring 51% equity stake. Lauren had no idea. She didn't pay attention to my work, and I operated through entities she'd never heard of. I planned to tell her eventually, make it a celebration when the firm stabilized. Then came my 40th birthday. After the $5 gift card, I decided she'd find out when I was ready. 2 weeks after my birthday, changes started at Preston and Wade. Subtle at first, a new expense approval process, mandatory reporting requirements, external audits announced. Lauren came home frustrated. "Management is acting paranoid," she complained. "Suddenly everything needs triple approval. They're treating us like children." "Maybe they're tightening controls," I suggested. "Some invisible investor is apparently concerned about governance. It's ridiculous." I just nodded. The next week, executive team restructuring announced. 2 senior partners asked to step back. Board oversight increased. Lauren was furious. "This investor is destroying the culture. Nobody even knows who they are." "Probably someone trying to protect their investment," I said mildly. "Well, they're ruining everything." The irony was perfect. She was complaining to me about decisions I was making. A month later, Lauren was in full panic mode. "They're reviewing all director-level positions," she told me. "Performance evaluations, client retention metrics, everything." That sounds standard for a restructuring. It's humiliating. I've been there 5 years. Now I have to prove my worth to some mystery investor? Maybe that's the point. Proving worth based on actual performance, not tenure. She glared at me. "You wouldn't understand. You've never had to deal with high-stakes corporate politics." I let it go. What I didn't tell her, the performance review had flagged concerning patterns. Client complaints, expense irregularities, conflicts of interest. Nothing criminal, but sloppy, unprofessional. The kind of thing that happens when people prioritize image over substance. The board meeting was scheduled for a Thursday afternoon. Senior management, key partners, and the investor representative would be present. Lauren texted me that morning. "Big meeting today. Investor finally showing their face. Wish me luck." I didn't respond. I arrived at Preston and Wade at 2:45 p.m., entered through the executive entrance. Security nodded. They knew me. The conference room had 12 people. Senior partners, management team, legal counsel. Lauren was sitting at the far end of the table, reviewing notes. I walked in at exactly 3 p.m. The room went quiet. Lauren looked up. Her face went from professional focus to complete confusion. "David, what are you doing here?" The senior partner, Richard Preston, stood. "Everyone, I'd like to introduce David Chen, managing partner of Meridian Holdings and majority stakeholder in Preston and Wade. He's here to address the board regarding operational restructuring." I watched Lauren's face process this information. Confusion, disbelief, recognition, horror. "That's not David. What is he talking about?" I sat down at the head of the table. "Lauren, I'm the investor you've been complaining about for 2 months." Silence. I didn't make it personal. I didn't mention our marriage or the gift card. I addressed the board professionally. "Over the past 6 months, I've invested significant capital to stabilize this firm. In return, I acquired majority ownership. My priority is long-term viability, which requires operational discipline and leadership accountability." I outlined the findings: expense irregularities, client retention issues, performance gaps. Several director-level positions need reevaluation. not as punishment, but as standard governance practice when new ownership assumes control. Lauren tried to speak. "This is—" Richard cut her off. "Lauren, please let Mr. Chen finish." I continued for 20 minutes, outlined restructuring plans, new reporting structures, performance expectations. Then came the vote on leadership changes. Lauren's position was among those being restructured, not eliminated, but significantly reduced in scope and authority. The vote passed unanimously. She sat there, silent, her face a mixture of rage and humiliation. The meeting ended. People filed out. Lauren stayed seated. We didn't speak until we got home. Then she exploded. "How could you? You humiliated me in front of my colleagues. You sabotaged my career." "I didn't sabotage anything," I said calmly. "I made business decisions based on company performance. Your position was restructured because the metrics didn't support it." "You did this to punish me for the birthday thing." "The investment started 6 months ago. The restructuring was planned before my birthday. Your gift card didn't change business fundamentals." "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted to protect our marriage. I thought if the firm stabilized quietly, you'd never have to know about the financial trouble. I was trying to support you without undermining your pride." She looked away. "And now?" "Now I don't see the point in protecting someone who calls me mediocre." "I didn't mean it like that." "Yes, you did. You meant it exactly like that. You stopped seeing me as your partner years ago. Tonight just made it official in a different context." We separated 2 months later. The divorce was civil. I didn't fight her on anything. She got what was fair. Preston and Wade stabilized under new management. I stepped back from day-to-day involvement, maintaining board oversight but letting professionals run operations. Lauren took a position at a smaller firm, lost the prestige but kept her career. As for me, I went back to what I do best: quiet, methodical work that keeps companies alive. The difference? I stopped accepting being called mediocre, not because I needed validation, but because I finally understood being underestimated isn't an insult. It's an advantage. People who underestimate you stop watching carefully. They make assumptions, they get sloppy, and when they realize their mistake, it's already too late. I still have that $5 gift card. Never used it. It sits in my desk drawer as a reminder, not of humiliation, but of clarity. The moment I stopped caring what Lauren thought of me was the moment I became free. If you've ever been called mediocre by someone who couldn't see your actual value, subscribe, because being underestimated isn't weakness, it's freedom. Hit that like button if you believe quiet power beats loud arrogance. And remember, the person you dismiss as mediocre might be the one signing your paycheck. See you next time.